Hi everyone, thank you for joining me today on The Shadows, the Patreon podcast for Beneath the Shadows. Just gonna dive right in today. Today we're talking about the disappearance of the Beaumont children in Australia in 1966. On a bright summer day in 1966, don't know why I have to say it so weird, 3 children vanished from a crowded Australian beach, leaving behind a mystery that has haunted the nation for decades. The disappearance sparked one of the largest manhunts in Australian history. Despite countless theories and leads, the truth about what happened remains elusive. In this episode, we'll delve into the chilling details of their disappearance, the frantic search that followed, and the lingering questions that continue to haunt investigators and the public alike. This is the story of the Beaumont children. The disappearance of Jane Nattar Beaumont, Arna Kathleen Beaumont, and Grant Ellis Beaumont, collectively known as the Beaumont children, remains one of Australia's most infamous cold cases. On January 26, 1966, Australia Day, the 3 siblings vanished from Glenelg Beach near Adelaide, South Australia, in what is widely believed to have been an abduction and murder. That was hard for me to say, I'll tell you what. Adelaide is the capital and the most populated city in South Australia and lies nearly 8 hours away from Melbourne in Victoria and over 14 hours away from Sydney in New South Wales. Also, to drive from Adelaide, one of the more southern-based cities in Australia, to Darwin, a city on the northern coast of the Northern Territory, takes over 30 hours. That's the equivalent of driving from where I'm at my office studio here in Ypsilanti, Michigan, the Shadow Realm here, to the middle of Washington State. So driving from here in Michigan, people might know Ann Arbor better, which is the neighbor city, Ann Arbor, Michigan, to the middle of Washington State at 30 hours. Pretty crazy. We did a drive out to Glacier National Park a couple years back, about 3 years ago or so at this point, and almost 4 years ago. Yeah, about 3.5. And that took about 29 hours, so I definitely feel that. It's a long-ass fucking ways away. And so, what is Australia Day? You may not be wondering at all after hearing all of that information. Probably not even cross your mind. But Australia Day is observed annually on January 26th, commemorating the 1788 arrival of the First Fleet at Sydney Cove and the raising of the Union flag by Arthur Phillip. Today, the day encompasses more than the historical origins, with events organized by the Australia Day Council to celebrate the achievements and diversity of Australian society, while also acknowledging historical injustices, particularly those suffered by Indigenous Australians. The day often features community awards, citizen ceremonies, and the Australian of the Year's Award, as well as addresses by the Governor-General and Prime Minister. And I'll tell you, when looking at the Australian of the Year award, one thing made me truly sick to my stomach. There are yachtsmen, there are opera singers, there's boxers, cricket players, and even actors, even fucking, there's all of that shit. A lot of scientists and stuff, but motherfucking Steve Irwin, the goddamn crocodile hunter, never won Australian of the Year. How? How is that possible? How does he do so much for fucking nature and not win one, but goddamn fucking cricket player McGee over here wins the fucking Australian of the Year? It's shameful. Shameful, Australia. I'm sickened, like I said, sick to my stomach when I saw that. Such an atrocity and disappointment. God, what the hell? Public celebrations, including festivals and concerts, take place across the country, making it Australia's largest annual civic event. The significance of Australia Day has evolved since its early celebrations in 1808. Initially, individual states marked their own foundational events, such as Tasmania's Regatta Day or Western Australia's Foundation Day. New South Wales first celebrated Anniversary Day in 1818. Following Australia's federation in 1901, there were increasing calls for a unified national holiday. In 1935, January 26 was officially named Australia Day, and by 1940, it became a public holiday across all the states. The holiday's date was permanently fixed in 1994, ending the practice of scheduling it for a convenient long weekend. So they would the 26th lies on a Thursday. So we'll just make it into a long weekend. Or like if it landed on a Wednesday, they're like, well, we're going to postpone Australia Day till Friday. And we'll take Friday, Saturday, Sunday off. How about that? However, the date has long been contentious. As early as 1938, the Day of Mourning, organized by the Australian Aborigines League, highlighted the impact of British colonization on Indigenous Australians, including the loss of their lands and culture. Since then, January 26 has been a day of protest for many, with some referring to it as Invasion Day or Survival Day. These counter-observances emphasize the dispossession and suffering endured by Indigenous peoples as a result of colonization. Calls to change the date or abolish the holiday altogether have grown louder in recent years, particularly among younger Australians. While support for changing the date remains a minority position overall, polls suggest that those under 30 are significantly more in favor of the change compared to older generations. And whether that is due to them being more accepting or wanting to see past wrongs be corrected in some way, I'm not quite sure. It's hard to put the events of the past up with today's standards or, today's viewpoints projected to past things that were more common in those days. Not saying it's right, but not saying we should take our viewpoints right now or our standards right now and try to project them back to the 19, 18, 1700s and shit. It's just makes things very iffy. The ongoing debate reflects the complex and multifaceted history of Australia Day, as it continues to serve as both a national day of pride and a reminder of the nation's challenging colonial legacy. But now, though, let's dive down deep and pull the details of the Beaumont children's disappearance out from beneath the shadows. On the day of their disappearance, several witnesses reported seeing the Beaumont children at Glenelg Beach, a family-friendly spot located just west of downtown Adelaide, known for its long, sandy beaches and the Beach House Amusement Center, with water slides, rides, and arcade games. Glenelg, also, funny enough, is a palindrome, a word, phrase, or sentence, it's a sequence, it's weird, that reads the same forwards as it does backwards, or backwards as it does forward, like noon, kayak, mom, or wow. The longest palindrome in the English dictionary is actually the spelling of a word, yeah, it's the spelling of a word, you fucking, fucking, the spelling of a sound, tattaratat. 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 I've always found palindromes interesting, fascinating to look at for some reason, but back to the story. So the children were spotted in the company of a man described as tall, with light brown, dirty blonde hair, light brown, dark blonde hair somewhere in there, a thin face, suntanned complexion, and a medium build, estimated to be in his mid-30s. The children were spotted playing with him at Collie Reserve and later at Wenzel's Cake Shop on Mosley Street. Despite extensive searches and investigations, neither the children nor the man were ever located. This case captured international attention and helped to mark a shift in Australian societal norms as parents grew increasingly cautious about allowing children to roam unsupervised. The mystery has persisted for decades, with some theories linking it to the Adelaide Oval abductions in 1973. A $1 million reward for information remains unclaimed as of 2018. So, what happened? Where did they go? What happened to these kids? And when was the last time they were seen? Let's take a look at it. The Beaumont family lived in Somerton Park, a suburb of Adelaide, at 109 Harding Street. From looking at Google Maps, it's a nice middle-class neighborhood, and their house, the house that still stands there, is a 3-bedroom, 1-bathroom, single-story family home, a classic starter for a small family like theirs. It was the mom, the dad, and the 3 children. So a solid-looking home, paved roads, pretty decent, if I do say so myself. And actually, at this point, just looking at prices, probably more of an upper-class neighborhood, more so. From what I was reading, the estimated price of the house is over $600,000, if not closer to $1 million or more, as of 2024 right now. Parents Jim Beaumont, a former serviceman and taxi driver, and Nancy Beaumont had been married since December 1955. The children frequently visited nearby Glenelg Beach, a popular destination. On January 25, 1966, amid a summer heat wave, Jim dropped the children at Glenelg Beach before departing on a 3-day work trip. The next morning, the siblings asked their mother if they could do shit. Their mother, how about that, if they could visit the beach again. They caught an 8:45 a.m. bus for the short trip, planning to return home by noon. When they failed to return home on either the 12 noon bus or the 2 p.m. bus, Nancy became alarmed. Jim ended up arriving home early from his work trip, and upon Jim's early arrival home at 3 p.m., the couple began searching for the children. After their efforts proved fruitless, they reported the disappearance to police at 5:30 p.m. Authorities initially believed the children were nearby and had simply lost track of time. A large-scale search ensued, covering the beaches, sand dunes, and nearby areas, while airports, rail lines, and roads were monitored. By January 29th, fear of foul play had grown, and the Adelaide Sunday Mail declared that a sex crime was now feared. Despite the heightened concern, the initial reward was only £250, or Australian bucks, or whatever they are, the Australian dollar. I don't know if it was that back then, or if they were using the euro, if they ever did. 250 of their monies. That same day, the Padawalonga boat haven was drained after a witness reported seeing 3 children near the site around 7 p.m. on January 26th. The search yielded no evidence, as would none of these goddamn searches. Witnesses recalled seeing the Beaumont children with the man described earlier. He was seen interacting with the children, who appeared comfortable in his presence. At one point, the man reportedly asked a witness about missing money from the children's belongings. The group was later observed walking away from the beach together around 12:15 p.m. At Wenzel's Bakery, Jane purchased pasties and a meat pie using a $1, £1, £1 Australia buck note. This was significant as their mother had only given them 6 shillings and 6 pence. So this is in euros, yeah, because it's pounds, shillings, and pence are the 3 things. Enough for bus fare and lunch. Police believed the money had been provided by the mysterious man. A postman later reported seeing the children walking alone around 2:55 p.m. along Jetty Road, laughing and holding hands. However, he later revised his statement, suggesting that the sighting may have occurred earlier in the day. The case has attracted numerous theories, including reports of sightings and psychic involvement. Dutch psychic Gerard Croiset, it might be Croiset or Quaset or some shit, Croiset, it's not his actual last name, so fuck this dude, claimed the children were buried in a warehouse, leading to 2 excavations, both unsuccessful. And reason I say fuck this dude is because this dude had a notoriously bad record during his psychic career, leading to the presumption by most that the few visions that he had that were accurate were no more than sheer luck. And this guy was asked all the time by police to help with fucking this and that and this and that and helping find this person and do this shit and that. And he was so bad, as most of them are, but so bad at it. In the late 1960s, the Beaumonts received letters reportedly from Jane and their abductor. A meeting was arranged but never materialized. Decades later, forensic analysis identified the letters as a hoax written by a teenager at the time. More recently, attention turned to Harry Phipps. I almost said Phillips. It looks like Phillips almost, but it's Phipps, Harry Phipps, a businessman and potential suspect. In 2013 and 2018, excavations at his former factory site uncovered disturbed soil and animal bones, but no evidence linked to the Beaumont children. His own son had reported that he saw the children playing in their backyard when he was a little kid, when he was like 14 or 15 or something during the 1966 year. In January there, he said he saw the 3 children playing with his father, Harry Phipps, in the backyard, and that other employees or other people were hired to dig like holes, big holes at his former factory site that he owned. And so they were thinking that he buried the children at this factory, and it doesn't look that way, but I'm just, I'm not quite sure exactly one way or the other. The Beaumont children's disappearance remains an enduring mystery, reshaping the way Australian parents viewed child safety. They said, fuck you going out by yourself. You're going to hang with me, hang with your brother, hang with people that are old enough to, protect your ass. Decades later, it continues to spark speculation and ongoing investigation, but their fate remains unknown. But, let's take a look at numerous suspects who appeared throughout the years, including Harry Phipps and a few others as well. So first off, we have Bevan Spencer von Einem, born in 1946, was sentenced to life imprisonment in 1984 for the murder of Richard Kelvin, the teenage son of Adelaide newsreader Rob Kelvin. So Dick Kelvin. Sorry, fucking poor Dick got murdered. Authorities believed von Einem had accomplices and possibly committed additional murders. Around this time, he became a suspect in the Beaumont case. Despite police suspicions, no accomplices were ever charged, and von Einem has refused to cooperate regarding his alleged involvement in other crimes. A key informant, though, known only as Mr. B, claimed von Einem once boasted about abducting 3 children from a beach and conducting experiments on them, quote-unquote experiments. According to Mr. B, von Einem stated he had performed brilliant surgery on the children, which led to one dying. And for some reason, when I hear that or read that he performed brilliant surgery on 3 children, leading to one of them dying, I just picture like a child human centipede type thing going on, and it's fucking graphic and terrible. He then allegedly killed the other 2 and disposed of their bodies in bushland south of Adelaide. In the bushland. The bush. The bush. His age at the time, in his early 20s, did not match witnesses' reports of a man in his mid to late 30s. But I mean, you never know. I mean, maybe he's had a rough life. He got real fucking stressed and he looks 10 years older than he is. You never know. You could look like your 30s in your mid 20s. It's not impossible. Unlikely, probably, but not impossible. Furthermore, his known victims were older teenagers, unlike the much younger Beaumont children, so they're not sure if he would forego his MO to abduct some young kids if that's really what he wanted to do. And maybe he abducted them just to do these experiments on. You never know. Investigators have neither confirmed nor ruled out his involvement in the case. Number 2, Arthur Stanley Brown. Arthur Stanley Brown, who was charged in 1998 with the 1970 murders of Judith and Susan McKay in Townsville, Queensland, was also considered a suspect. Although his trial was halted due to his dementia diagnosis, Brown bore a striking resemblance to descriptions of the suspect in the Beaumont and Adelaide Oval cases. However, no records definitively placed Brown in Adelaide during the Beaumont disappearance, and no evidence linked him to the crime. Which brings us to number 3, James Ryan O'Neill. James O'Neill, convicted of murdering a 9-year-old boy in Tasmania in 1975, reportedly claimed responsibility for the Beaumont case, so, claimed to have been the person who did it, which more times than not, I feel like is probably not the person who did it, because, however, police found no evidence to corroborate his, However, police found no evidence to corroborate his involvement. O'Neill worked in the opal industry and frequently traveled near Adelaide, but he denied being in the city during the abduction. Investigators eventually ruled him out as a suspect. And number 4, then, Derek Ernest Percy. Derek Percy, a convicted child killer and one of Victoria's longest-serving prisoners, emerged as a suspect due to his proximity of the area at that time. However, Percy was only 17 in 1966, making him younger than the witnesses' descriptions of the suspect, and I would say 17, probably not going to look 35. 24, 25, you might look 35, you never fucking know, but this guy probably not. Investigators found no conclusive evidence tying Percy to the Beaumont disappearance. And side note, I want to say Percy all the time. I have no fucking clue why, but I want to say Percy, and I know it's not fucking Percy, it's Percy, P-E-R-C-Y, Percy. Fucking, like, what? Percy? Does anyone have the fucking name Percy? Probably not. Percy. I don't know why Percy's in my head all the time. Number 5, Alan Anthony Monroe. Alan Anthony Monroe, a former scoutmaster convicted of child sexual offenses, became a suspect when a diary written in 1966 placed him near Glenelg Beach on the day of the disappearance. Despite being investigated, no evidence directly linked him to the case. Of course, he's a scoutmaster convicted of Of course, he's a scoutmaster convicted of sex offenses. Not surprising for some reason. And kind of disturbing that he was in the area at the time, even though there's no evidence that links him to this case. But maybe he was there just watching kids on the beach, because that's probably a thing that fucking creepy people do like that. Oh, and if I didn't mention, the kids are 9, 7, and 3? No, wait. 9, 7, and 4. So Jane was born the 10th of September, 1956. Arna, A-R-N-N-A, was born on the 11th of November, 1958. And Grant, the youngest, was born on the 12th of July, 1961. All right, so our last suspect now, someone who we already talked about, Harry Phipps. Harry Phipps, a local factory owner, was named a potential suspect following the publication of The Satin Man. Phipps bore a resemblance to the suspect's seen with the Beaumont children and lived near Glenelg Beach. His estranged son alleged that Phipps had the children in his yard on that day they vanished. Additionally, 2 men claimed Phipps paid them to dig a hole on his property the same weekend. Investigations, including excavations at his former factory site, found no evidence connecting him to this case. All right, and last thing, I don't know, he cooperated fully. Jim seems like a good dad and all, but why did he come home early from his 3-day fucking work trip? He was only gone for a day. He wasn't even gone for fucking 2 days, day and a half, none of that shit. He was gone for 1 day, and he came back early from a 3-day trip. Seems weird to me. I don't think he really had anything to do with this. I'm sure he was investigated, and like I stated, he did cooperate fully with police during this investigation, so probably didn't have anything to do with it, but I do find it kind of weird that he came home a day early or 2 days early after a day of his 3-day trip. Who knows? Who knows what could have happened? Don't think it was him. He has passed away now. And with that, we're gonna be bouncing out of here. Unfortunately, there's no conclusion to this. They've never been found. Their bodies have never been found. There is a $1 million, prize or reward. Not prize. Hey, you're the winner. You won. Jeez, I'm a dummy. $1 million a $1 million reward still offered by the police and by Crime Stoppers of Australia. So if by any means you somehow have information about the Beaumont children's disappearance in Adelaide, Australia in 1966 at Glenelg Beach, if you have information, please contact Crime Stoppers in Australia. Please contact the Australian police in Adelaide and, figure things the fuck out. But with that, I want to thank you. Thank you so much for fucking being here. Thank you for being the best people in the world and checking this shit out. Thank you for going and following the Instagram and the TikTok page at Beneath the Shadows Podcast on either of those. This is Patreon, so you're fucking great for being here. But if you know anyone else who might want to join, spread the fucking Patreon too. Spread the show, rate and review everything. Apple Podcast, Patreon, don't know what you're going to do here, but Apple Podcast, Spotify, fucking Amazon Music, any of them, please go rate, review the show. I appreciate the fuck out of you guys. Thank you for being here. This has been The Shadows. I am Travis Fenn, your fucking host. Have a great day, and peace, my shadow people. Peace. Peace. Peace.
Wow, wow, wow.